Welcome to The Grant, the EU funding podcast. The Grant. My name is Niels Tudor-Winter, and I am the creator, editor, and host of The Grant. The Grant is an independent podcast initiative with the ambition to dig into all corners of the EU R&D funding system on topics of interest for the full EU R&D funding community. It is time to finally make a continuation series that follows up on the Timeline series. The Timeline series breaks down the proposal preparation process into every single step towards submitting an EU R&D funding proposal. Now, it is time to look at what happens after submission. Welcome to the implementation series, where I, together with guests, will zoom in on all aspects and elements of the process of implementing an EU-funded project. And following the same method, I start from the beginning, the contract negotiations. I have allied myself with Georg Melzer-Venturi, old friend of the Grant House, who has done lots of contract negotiations in his career. So, we have a look at the pre-preparations for the negotiations, preparations, the negotiations themselves, and then we have a talk about the exchange with the EU Commission and the importance of building a solid, trustful collaboration at the earliest stage. This will be a great series. Please enjoy. Grant. Welcome to The Grant, the EU funding podcast. And welcome to a new series. As regulars will know, what I did when I started up this podcast in May 22, I started off with developing a series, breaking down the proposal process step by step into small little bits and folding that out in detail so everybody can go in and tap into those episodes and in detail get feedback and understanding of how to deal with that specific step in the process. Now, it was always my intention to continue on that path with project implementation and with the lobby process. But as all regulars also know, this podcast has developed into a guest a guest show with lots of interesting guests on board, and my ambitions, they don't fly any lower than when I started, so I want to cover a lot of stuff. So it has taken a while, and as with anything where you need to do a series with many episodes, there's some planning behind that. Anyways, finally I'm here. So you're now listening to the first episode of the implementation series. And I've allied myself with one of my good old contacts and guests from the show, and regulars will also remember him because he's been a guest on some of the most interesting episodes, actually. Georg, welcome.
Hi, Niels. Good to be here.
Yeah, always nice to have you in. And I'm very happy that you want to take the time to help me starting the implementation series off, because you will also, not only will you do the first one, you're also going to do the second one with me. Contract negotiations, that's what we're going to talk about today. So that's the first thing so we're just going to take it as I did with the Timeline series on proposals, step by step. So sort of as chronologically as can be done in this series. So, but before we dig ourselves into that, yourself, Georg, for the listeners who are listening to The Grant for the first time, who are you?
So my name is Georg Melzer-Venturi. I have a small proposal consulting company based in Vienna. Technically, I'm an engineer, which is always interesting because, you come from a very analytical and process-orientated education. And all of a sudden, you're facing the European Commission with all its splendor and grandeur. I've for the last 24 years, I've been working with EU projects. The first 2 years at the National Contact Point in Vienna, and then the last 20 years supporting people in first just writing grants, then writing and doing a little bit of contract negotiation, then writing and doing help desk panic, and then now it's more going straight. I would say from the first idea to the final payment. So the entire the entire process really of a grant lifetime. And obviously, one of the most exciting parts in that is when you get that beautiful letter, and there's already there's already a thing, because when you get your notification via the participants portal, so you get an email saying that there is a notification about this, and as soon as
Mhm.
you log in and you open up, it either says letter, or it says congratulations letter, and our I forgot what the exact invitation to negotiation.
And it's always like it's such. Let's just start there, right? So it's this extremely intense process, increasingly intense process when you develop the proposal, from the first little dance steps you do around an idea or someone who's contacting you, they need to develop a proposal and so on, to the extremely hectic submission, and then everything is silent. Huh? You press that button and you go throw up out of exhaustion,
I have a beer, but
and
everybody does their thing. Yeah,
and then a beer after the
yeah.
throwing up. Now, um, and then you just, it's like bliss starts to take over your brain again. That's how the human brain works, right? It starts to see the sunlight again. It starts to hear the birds. Start to live again, and you start to slowly focus on new tasks, maybe new wonderful proposal processes you need to do, and then eventually throughout this period of several months you will have someone asking, right, sending you an email.
Yeah, and the thing is, I mean,
Have we got in the evaluation yet? No.
yeah,
uh,
or a lot of times you hear nothing, and it's really spooky. So you write this email at whatever 10 past 5, saying thank you everyone, and here's the submitted proposal, blah blah, and
yeah,
then you get 7 millions, thank you, awesome work, great, great, great,
yeah,
and then it just sort of, it's a cliff dive, and there's
yeah,
zero,
yeah.
and
Everybody crosses fingers.
and and then it takes around 100 days. I think that's a pretty accurate number, somewhere around there. Sometimes you'll have an indication of what the publication date for the results is going to be, but not always.
Mm.
Um, and then you get that email, right? And then you log in, and then you know what happened. And it's really cool, because everyone wants to be the first one to spread the good news, or the bad news.
Mhm.
Sometimes you do hear a little ruffling in the background first, but that's gotten more and more rare, because usually now the official notification in the portal is basically comes out at the same time for everyone, and then you open the letter, and it says, congratulations, and we'll be in touch with the so-called gap process, the grant agreement preparation process. And that's when it gets tricky, because there's people that you haven't talked to for 100 days, basically, usually, and then you have to call them all up
Yeah.
again, and all of a sudden, after 100 days of nothingness, you're on a super tight
Mhm.
timeline again. Because, I mean, you know how it is,
Mhm.
right? You get this letter, okay, and then you say, okay, and then grant preparations have to be completed within whatever it is, yeah, 30 days, 60 days, I don't know. There seems to be a little bit of variance in that. But a lot of times you'll be like, this is the deadline, and then you're like, well, what do I have to do by that deadline? Well, that we'll tell you that in due time.
Mhm.
That can be really funny, because you're sort of like, okay, I have a deadline. I don't know what I have to submit at that deadline. I will be told. And you have to then, rally the team back together, and you don't really know the complexity of everything that's coming at you, right? Because there's what happened in those 100 days. Well,
Nobody thought about that project.
Well, yeah, no, that's not really true because obviously the project officers thought about it, and usually three evaluators spent a lot of time
They
thinking about
did,
it. But the
but the
partners
partners,
are completely out there, right? And I mean, we've all been in the situation where the results come in on the 20th of December, and the deadline for the first version of the updated grant agreement is the 20th of January. And you're like, okay. Awesome. I mean, this is going to work. Yeah. So it's this whole thank you for letting me work over the vacation period again.
It's timing like only the European Commission manages, right?
Yeah. But it's I mean, there's two things. I mean, the one thing is, if you get stuff at the end of the year, then they can't make it because what they try to do is usually have stuff done by the fiscal year. So if the call was in April, the results will come out in August, and then they want to have the contract signed by December. Yeah. So,
Before
but
New
that
Year.
already gives you a pretty good timeline. I mean, you're coming back, and I mean, maybe you get the results in. I mean, for the medical projects, we've been getting the results beginning of August, which is prime vacation time, so you can't reach anybody. The only if you're lucky, you can set up a couple meetings for September-ish, and then you have to try to get a call in with the project officer. I mean, that's something that I really highly recommend.
Take us through it a little bit here, because so revealing to the listeners, this is something that I haven't done. The projects, it doesn't mean that I haven't won any framework program projects, but chance has it, or whatever, that, or destiny, call it whatever, that the ones that I was winning, I had left the organization when they came in. Either I left myself or I'd been late. Or last time I won a wonderful project, but they laid me they laid me off just before we got in the positive mess. I didn't get to follow that process. No. So anyways, so you're the expert here. I'm just normally people, they're used to me knowing a lot about the different things that I have people in for, but here I'm totally in oblivion, except for the things that I've heard.
Everything you've heard is true, obviously, especially the bad stuff.
So let's so Georg, take us through. So so we just talked a little bit about what happens in the beginning. So you get the message, and then you get a deadline for when the contract negotiations has to be what? What's the first deadline you get?
Well, you have to submit the first version of the new grant agreement by a certain deadline, and that's usually in like a 30-day period.
Okay.
Then what you get immediately, obviously, is the evaluation summary report, which is a summary of the comments that the usually three reviewers or evaluators had of the project or of the proposal. And there you already have a lot of information, right? So if you have a project that has 14.5 points, and the half a point is because the project was overly ambitious or something like that, which I've had. So yeah, project seems overly ambitious. Great. We know. I think that's why we got it in the end, because we were so ambitious. But good, yeah.
Yeah.
Then obviously it's a lot easier, yeah. But you can get projects through with 13.5 points or something.
Yeah.
Because just because 15 is the max doesn't mean that's what's given, and there's a lot of
Of course,
instances
there, right?
yeah, and in a lot of instances, even if there's just one or two projects being funded, the best one still only has 13.5, 14
Yeah.
or something points. Yeah. And when you've got, let's say 13 points, and you've lost a whole point somewhere, half a point somewhere else, so I mean there's really a lot of comments. And those are usually reflected already in the evaluation summary report. You'll say, so, they'll be like, yeah, in the implementation, this section, these points are raised, and in the excellence, these points are raised, and in the impact, these points are raised. So before you even get the so-called a gap document, which is the grant agreement preparation document, which will tell you exactly everything that you have to do, you can already expect that everything that the evaluators commented on is going to be in that gap. Yeah, because at the end of the day, I mean, there's how does the procedure work, right? You wrote the proposal, the evaluators evaluate it, then there's a cross check by the commission if there's anything else that the evaluators missed,
formalities
that
Yep.
Either doesn't make sense or something. I mean, there's or is not compatible with, for example, the financial guidelines. I mean, sometimes you write in, yeah, and this is going to be subcontracted to company X, and the evaluators might think, okay, who cares? If they can do it, that's great. But the finance department will say, no, you can't say that you're going to subcontract it to company X. You have to say it's going to be subcontracted to whoever fits the subcontracting criteria best, and 3 offers, and blah blah blah, right? So it's not limited to the to what the evaluators say. There's also obviously the commission services that have their.
But still, I guess that the evaluators' assessment, that's authoritative, so to say, in terms of
it's very. I mean, again,
content.
It goes a little bit into this process of responsibility and accountability, and if the evaluators say that something should be done, but it's then not implemented in the negotiation phase, and then the project goes wrong, then somebody could say, hey, wait a minute, they were supposed to, whatever, make the house green. The evaluators clearly said the house should be green. You didn't make them change that in the grant agreement from the proposal, and now the house is purple and nobody wants to buy a purple house, so the whole the output is useless. Why didn't you implement that? So that's everything that the evaluators say is, I mean, with maybe, if they say something that is completely off the wall, and if they say, well, I don't know, they should receive twice the money or whatever, then something that's not practically not doable, then that would obviously not fly. But generally speaking, those things are implemented, and that's actually not a bad way for things to go, because it gives you the opportunity to prepare stuff. And if new things do come in from the project officer or the commission as a whole, the PO, the financial officer, legal, whatever, in the background, then it could always be that you can, to a certain degree, question that, because if the evaluators say whatever, the methodology is flawless, and then all of a sudden in the gap it says, please include another task with another experiment or something. It's like, well, where is this coming from? I mean, is this just a random comment, or basically, why should we do this? Yeah. And then that can be interesting, in the discussion with the PO, because that the PO hopefully would be somebody that will accompany the project for a relatively long duration. I mean, POs changed obviously, but generally speaking, you do have them in the project for a long time. And I mean, I guess that's why this gap process, in my opinion, is really important, because it sets the precedent of how the communication between the project and the commission goes. And you can do a lot of things wrong, right? If in this process you're being a cocky smartass, well,
they're gonna make a note.
yeah,
Make a remark on that
if
in the margin.
In German, there's the expression, wie man in den Wald reinschreit, so kommt's raus. The way you shout into the forest is the way it comes out. Um, and it's so this is a time of convergence, right? Where you go, this was our
Yeah.
idea, these are the expert comments, and together with the project officer, you combine that and make it into the best version for the project. Yeah, and I mean, and that's why I say one of the first things you should do is contact the PO, because as soon as you have the invitation, the interface in the participant portal changes a bit, and you have the name of your project officer, and at least from that name where their email address, because it's first name dot last name at europe.eu. Yeah, so
Yeah.
you can send an email saying, hi, Frank, Sarah, whatever, this is us, we're looking forward to the process, do you have time for a short phone call, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, these the POs are under a lot of stress because they have to get all of their projects done in
Yeah.
these 30 days. So you're just thinking about one and you have 10 other things to do, but the POs have 10 projects. And that there's going to be, one or two in there where it's their first project ever, or it's being done by somebody who's not that experienced, or that there's a problem, like there's always problems. Yeah, sometimes somebody goes bankrupt during the proposal phase, or somebody changes, and so you want to stand out as quickly as possible as being competent, prepared, and fair.
And maybe you can add kind.
And kind. Although I think fair is more important than kind, because you can have harsh discussions with POs as long as they're factual.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not all easy, yeah, and it's not always all straightforward, but you can. It's
Polite is maybe a better
polite.
word.
No, that polite, yes, polite,
Yeah.
fair, competent, and I
Yeah.
think if you bring that across, then they know, okay, this is going to be an easy one, because then you say, okay, look, we're looking forward to receiving the gap document as soon as possible so that we can work on the changes. Immediately it goes click, okay, they've done this before, they know what's going on, they know what happened. Yeah, we've started taking the stuff from the because the tables have to go into the online form of the portals, the work packages have to be transferred. Yeah, we started doing that. We started taking all the parts that will not be in Annex 1 of the grant agreement and started to copy that into the portal. We're totally on it. If there's any changes that we want us to do, yeah, and proactively go in there, then in my experience at least, the POs know, okay, this is somebody who's competent, this is somebody who knows what's going on, this is somebody where I don't have to watch every move. Yeah. And then
just a step back here. Do you get some sort of directions? Do they send you a guide? Do they send the coordinator a guide on how to do these things yourself? Is there some sort of...
Well, yeah, the gap. So the gap document is like a 20-page document where they say, delete this table and put it in the file, delete this table and put it there. But that's obviously, that gap document doesn't come as quickly as the portal actually opens up.
Okay, so this for listeners who've never experienced this, including myself. So so the gap is the guide.
Yes.
Yeah, it's the guiding document, and you receive that. Is that the first thing you receive?
No, the first thing you receive is the evaluation summary report.
Of course.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then
how quickly do you receive the gap?
Yeah, that's a tricky one, because so that can be a day or a week or even 2 weeks after.
Okay.
After. So yeah, especially because sometimes the gap is like, especially if you're doing stuff where there's a lot of ethical issues, then they have to wait for the ethical committee, because those sometimes take a little bit longer.
Is it when you receive the gap, you receive your deadline?
No, you receive the deadline as soon as you receive the ESR, actually.
So you might, if you have bad luck, you receive a month deadline, then you receive this 2 weeks later, so you only have 2 weeks with the guiding document. That's not nice.
Yeah, but I mean, to be fair, that first deadline is, although it is written in the portal, I mean, we've had instances where we just says, look, we can't hold that deadline, right? And it says if you don't make the deadline, then
Okay.
we have reserved the right to cancel contract negotiations, blah blah. The whole nuclear option is always presented to you in the background, yeah. But
Yeah.
practically, I've never heard anybody who showed diligent progress that this was used, yeah.
Okay. So this happens. Now, when we've been talking about when we developed the rundown, you said so you have the gap pre-preparations.
Right.
What did you mean by that? Is that what we did, just
Yeah,
talked
that's
about?
what I just talked
What you
about. Because
explained now?
so as soon as you have the ESR, you know what's going to happen, and even before you get the gap, you know that when you go into the participant portal, you will see that there's a like a tab called deliverables. There's a tab called milestone. There's a tab called work packages. So you can immediately go in and from the deliverables table, copy the deliverables into the online form. You can take the milestones from the milestone table and copy them in. You can take the work packages and copy them in. You can do all that before you even receive the gap. And again, then when you receive the gap and you have the call with the PO, or you have the thing, you say, I already did all that. I did everything. I did all the usual stuff already. I'm ahead of the game. Yeah. I'm ahead of the curve. I know what I'm doing. Yeah. Shows competence, willingness.
Yeah. So this is a good tangible thing, guys out there. So you heard it on the grant. This is good simple guidance on that everybody can follow. Very simple. Go into the participants portal, check this out if you haven't done it before. All right.
Yeah, the tricky part is, it's obviously it only opens at the point when you get the invitation to contract negotiations letter, right? So you can't see it unless the process starts.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Is there anything else on the pre-preparations?
Well, one thing that I would immediately start is the consortium agreement, but that's a different story.
This is what we're going to talk about in episode number 2.
Yeah.
So this is what you will hear after this episode in the implementation series. So that we will get back to, because that's a whole chapter by itself.
And what you immediately have to do is set up contact lists. You need every partner who's actually doing the work, because a lot of the person who wrote it isn't there anymore, or whatever, or moved on, or is doing a different job, whatever. So you need to make sure that for every participant you have contact details. My opinion, always make sure you have a phone number, even if they don't have a work phone, that they have a private phone. Promise them you will not call them unless it's absolutely a life or death situation. But you really, sometimes you just, you need quick access to information. Then obviously already think about, because what time do you want the project to start? Because there's 2 versions of this. One is the first of the month of the date following the signature. So if you sign it on the 31st of January, your project starts on the 1st of February. Or you can have a fixed start date. You can say, we want to start on the 1st of December, which always sucks, yeah.
Yeah.
Or the 1st of February. And then even if contract negotiations go until March, you can already start the project on the 1st of February and start having costs that are eligible as of the 1st of February. Or if you finalize your negotiations on the 30th of November, you don't want to start on the 1st of December. I mean, that's the worst. Yeah, you have 3 weeks where nothing's going to get done because everybody's panicking for the end of the year. Then everyone's gone for 3 weeks, and then it'll be late January when you finally have your kickoff, and 6 weeks of the project are gone.
What do you recommend? Do you recommend that people set a fixed date, or
fixed date,
or when?
Fixed date, because it gives you certainty of planning. Yeah, and a lot of times, you can say it, and like I said at the beginning, there's this issue with fiscal year. But one thing that you can do, usually, if the project starts on the 1st of January, it's still considered the old fiscal year for the project starting date. Yeah, so you can get away with that usually. And the thing is, once you've decided on a date with the inside your consortium and come to an agreement with your project officer on that starting date, you can find a date for a kickoff meeting.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
at that point in time, you're 3 months from the kickoff meeting, or you're 3 months from the start of the project, and you want to have that physical kickoff meeting with everybody on site in a certain place in the first couple of weeks of the project, because every delay you can never make up for again. And if you say we're going to start the project on the 1st of January, and on the 20th of January, we're all meeting in Vienna, and then you have 100 days to make your reservations, book the conference room or book the room in the auditorium. Everyone can get their flights. And actually, one of the few cases where you can incur costs outside of the project is travel to the kickoff meeting. You can
Yeah.
pay the travel cost to the kickoff meeting in March, or March is probably as soon as the contract negotiations are initiated, until the start of the project.
Oh, but that's also a nice information.
So if it's November, you can book your flight and pay your flight in November, even though the kickoff is in January and the project starts on the 1st of January.
So yes, so you have the formalities, and then you have the things that you need to do with your awesome consortium. You need to gather, you need to round people up, you need to people are eager to get information on what the timeline until the projects are. When do we start? When are this and that? Please send us some information. This is how it is. So yes, that's so. Those are two. You need the communication with the commission, and you need the communication with the consortium. And this is the role that you have embarked for as a coordinator. You will forever be in the middle, in between those two, for the next couple of years.
Yeah, and one thing that's don't forget, you're working for free. This is unbillable hours.
Until the contract is ready, until
Yeah.
the project starts.
So if you hired a consultant, make sure that you have budget to pay him. Wink, wink. I can't work for free. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
And at the coordinator also be aware that you will need resources that you can't build to the project at this time. Yeah, you need your finance, the finance administration, all that, but also on a research level, because usually you do get a couple things that you have to change on the contract. Yeah, provide more details on this, or something else here. I've been getting 14.5 points on a lot of the projects recently. But there's always, a couple minor issues that you have to address. So that's definitely something that will require effort, and that's not paid by the project. Yeah. Also, the effort that goes into drafting the consortium agreement, it's a coordinator cost. Yep.
That's an investment. Now, preparations. Now we went through the pre-preparation. So preparation, what would you label under there?
Yeah, but the preparations is already going into, what how do we kick stuff off, making sure that you set a kicked off date, making sure that everybody who's essential can participate. I mean, for a lot,
I'm talking about the contract.
for the contract, then one of the preparations that you obviously have to do then, and this is when you have comments in the evaluation summary report, which are then taken up in the gap document.
Mhm.
It doesn't say do this different. It usually says explain this, or why is this going on, or elaborate on this, or why are you doing A and B? Are both really necessary, or something like that, right? And there,
Yeah.
this is it's not a decision. It's a suggestion to a certain degree, right? And
Mhm.
there is and there is room for negotiation. So just because the evaluation summary report says whatever, more effort needs to be done with this and that, doesn't mean that it has to be like that. Then you can say, well, I mean, based on this and this, and we have this, and we have maybe this coming out of another project, so actually it fits. And the other things, if you're asked to do more, then don't just say yes. Say, well, we have a plan and we have a budget. If you want us to change the plan and increase our activity, either we need more budget, which is impossible, or we have to decrease something else.
Yeah. So what you're saying is that here you need to, in this phase, you need to level your negotiation. You need to count your chips.
Yeah.
So what can you negotiate with? Don't just say yes, sir, but say we made a proposal and you found it good enough to fund. That was carefully
Yeah.
we assessed the budgets. So those are very carefully these values in there. This is what it costs. We even saved a little bit here. And
Yeah.
get my point?
Yeah. No, I mean,
so you're sort of balancing your negotiation position, so to say, before understanding where you can get into a discussion. And prepare your arguments for that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, when you go to buy a car and you say, I want to buy a car and I want to pay 50,000 euros, and the guy says, well, you can have this car, and it's like, that's great, but I want the bigger engine. And the car salesman is going to say, well, either I want more money or, skip the leather seats. Yeah, you can't just have a bigger engine. Yeah, you're going to have to negotiate, and that's, this isn't, it's not poker, yeah. And again, this is also something, where you can show that you're, polite and trustworthy to your PO by basically saying, look, I understand that. We took a look at it. We assessed that doing this extra work is going to be, 3 to 4 person months. And based on that assessment, we have to do, reduce this here, which would also be 3 or 4 person months. Is that okay? The alternative would be reducing this here, which would also be 3 or 4 person months. And then say that's our position. These are the 3 pieces in play. If you want that, which one of the 2 should we can we reduce? Right?
Yeah. So it's like with anything else in life, if you stretch out, stand on your position, but still stretch out and show good intentions and willingness to find a solution.
Yeah. And you have to be,
normally the other part also behaves in the same way.
And you have to be willing to negotiate, because the PO is a representative of the commission, which is going into negotiation based on the evaluator's expert opinion, and that's what they have. That's where they're going in, and if that can be a tricky situation as well, especially if you're thinking, well, that's not really what I think. It's not easy, but at the end of the day, it's relatively straightforward. Be an honest and reliable negotiation partner, and things will go well.
Yeah. This for the preparation, we slowly act because these things they overlap, right? So now we're moving into talking about the negotiations themselves.
Yeah.
How does that work? Is it only the coordinator that goes, or how is that set up?
Yeah, that's a tricky situation actually, because the official opinion is that it's done by the coordinator. Obviously, when you have an expert in the management team, and I'm looking at myself here, it'd be stupid not to involve them, right? And what we usually do is we're very frank and straightforward with the POs. We're saying, this is the situation. We have the coordinator from the organization, and we're here to support. The coordinator is the scientific expert who can answer all the scientific parts of the question, and we're here to support also the coordinator, so that you don't have to explain everything. We know the process. We know what's going on. We're here to help. And at the end of the day, it is the decision of the PO if he lets another party, one of the beneficiaries, into the process or not. And again, if you weren't polite and constructive, then the PO is just simply going to say, "No, I'm sorry, I'm just talking to the coordinator. Go away," and that's the end of that. Yeah. So you really have to.
Did you ever get a no?
Never.
Okay. Because you're very kind and polite.
No, because I simply say this is the best way to go forward, because I know exactly what's coming ahead. And being prepared, having done what I've already taught, together with the scientific team, we've already prepared. We've done the deliverables, the milestone, all the boring stuff in the background. We've prepped out a couple things, couple of the administrative things. I have a couple questions on and with that, usually the POs are happy to hear that someone's on the team that knows the game.
Yeah, it's and actually, I think, dear listeners, this is also the discourse that I have in my podcast as such. The Commission, it's our friends. I also know many of you out there are tired of procedures, or you have been through processes that made you very angry or frustrated, or so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, this is actually an organization with a lot of people that really want you to succeed. They really, really want to give the money to the right thing, and they really, really want you to do something that makes a difference. You have a lot of idealists in the Commission. They might be clerks, but they really believe in what they're doing in many of the agencies that sits and administer this. So this is, I think, this, if you have that in the back of your head as a keynote, and then if you experience something else, keep that, but don't let it destroy you. Yeah, this has been my impression from the first years I started working with this.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, this is something where, generally speaking, the Commission is your ally, and don't piss them off, because you can only lose.
Yeah,
it's a fight you won't win.
And I think maybe I'm not going to generalize anything on that, because but I can easily see why some people see the Commission as a big monster or a big entity that is difficult to work with, and then biased by that, they may be quicker jump to conclusions about ill will or so on that is totally unjustified in most cases. It's very easy to see a big bureaucratic organization as an opponent, but try not to, because it's actually not. It's
yeah, and the longer I work with Commission and Commission staff, and I see the constraints that they have, and you build up a relationship after years of working together, and you almost in the best case scenarios, you have one-on-one phone calls with the POs where you're trying to figure out together how to best get the decision that you jointly decided through the bureaucratic process.
Yeah, I've been observing these kind of situations as well, that they actually go a little bit more on your side, so to say, for the bureaucracy. So yeah, I totally agree.
So
I totally agree.
This is something where, like I said, politeness, honesty, openness in on the little things, stick to the big things, and you'll make friends that that you'll have for a long time. I mean, the medical projects that I have running have a 60-month duration. That's 5 years. Yeah, I mean, that's a long time. Yeah. And never forget,
it's half a decade.
Yeah, and never forget, I mean, the POs are also the ones who are responsible for the next call. So, if they're looking for experts, that's also going across their desk. Yeah, so you can really ooze into the system there a little bit.
So zoom again a little bit in on negotiations themselves. So let's take a scenario, either the coordinator or a wingman.
Both, always both. Really, really, always try to have it both in the calls.
And then do you go to Brussels or do they do them online?
No, it's all online nowadays. All online.
Okay.
Yeah, the pilgrimage to Brussels.
And how long are these meetings? What how is the typical duration and the typical agenda? What happens?
The calls are just like an hour maybe. The first one might be a little bit longer, but usually, I mean, the first hello call is usually, I mean, I would say, hey, let's just have a 10-minute call, and then it's 20 minutes or something. But that's basically the hello. We know what's going on. Then you get the gap document. Then, I mean, usually it's relatively straightforward what the gap document wants you to do. And once you have that, then you go to the next step, which is just doing what it says. And when you're at that stage, then either everything that's on there is okay enough for you, or then you say, okay, look, I mean, I can do A, B, and C, but D we're gonna have to talk about. And then you just take that, and then basically the best thing, in my opinion, is always to say, look, I understand that the evaluator said this. I understand that from this would be your first suggestion. Our suggestion is actually a bit different. We have, plan A, plan B, with a slight preference for plan A or a strong preference for plan A. Is that okay with you, or is this something we need to talk about, or even be more proactive and say, I think we should talk about this on the phone, even if it's just a 10-minute call. This is, and again, the better prepared and structured you make your arguments, the easier it is. Yeah.
But what we didn't actually talk so much about was you will coordinate. You will need to coordinate this with your consortium. Yeah, so you will obviously, there will be meetings if there are issues on specific elements from the evaluation summary report, where say this is what they say, guys, from work package 1, 2, and 3, we need to meet and we need to agree on our position. I guess that's how it works. The coordinator say, look, this is, and informs the consortium on the position that when you have had these coordinated meetings with the partners involved in the places where there are any things that needs to be adjusted, then you gather a document before you go, probably. I say, this is going to be our position. Do you have any comments on that?
Yeah. Then, so in an ideal situation, you look at the gap, you decide what's coordinator level decision, what needs to be discussed with experts from the various work packages. You talk to the work packages, you make a plan A and a plan B. Always come with 2 suggestions, even if that the second suggestion is a crappy one. Yeah, it's just good tactics to give people an option, even if you say, look, we have 2 options. The second one is terrible, but it's the second best thing we can do. So the obvious best thing to do is plan A. And what's in my opinion is really important is that when you have these discussions, you can argue as much as you want internally, but like in The Godfather, you don't speak against the family outside the family. So inside you can argue and throw chairs at each other, I don't care what. But then when you say, we, the consortium, decided that this is our plan A, I mean, usually that call would just be between the coordinator and the PO, or maybe like a very small team. But if there's somebody else on the call, then they can't jump in. It's like, but I actually have a different idea. Yeah. Shut up, Gary. We discussed this already. Yeah.
I have a
Yeah.
footnote.
So you obviously don't want that to happen, but that's just standard negotiation 101. Yeah. Um, yeah.
Okay, so this is that's pretty clear. Post negotiation.
Well, post negotiation is just then implementing it in the in the grant agreement in the annex.
In the actual grant agreement, the grant agreement, that's a big motherfucker.
Well, 99% of the grant agreement is standard text that is undebatable and taken as is, and so that's it.
Did you ever read it?
Of course, every one of them.
The full text.
I always read the full thing. Of course, I'm a very diligent person. No way.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's 350 pages, and they're always the same. Yeah. No, you skim through it, and I mean it's basically it's a reiteration of a lot of the guidelines. It's a reiteration of how things work. I mean, yeah, I mean, for
Would you compare it to terms and agreement when you sign up to Facebook or something like this?
well, see, I'm not on Facebook, but
No,
and
but you understand what I mean. Do you agree to the terms and agreement?
well, at the end of the day, they're unnegotiable.
Yeah.
Right. So yes, you should be aware of what it says in there, and yes, you should be aware that it says that the commission reserves the right for a second level audit. But I mean, well, if you don't know that, then
it's not negotiable.
Yeah, it's not. Well, I don't want. I only accept PricewaterhouseCoopers on the second level audit, not KPMG. I mean, you can't do that. Yeah, it's just gonna be whoever the commission subcontracts, yeah, or tenders that to.
It's gonna be a fun one. Did you ever have an audit?
Yeah.
Okay, then you just signed up for the audit episode as well. No. That's gonna be fun. So that's basically you get the document with the things that has been agreed, and included in the grant agreement. You also have the proposal itself. You have everything in that document.
Right. So the first 300 whatever pages are the standard terms and conditions, so to speak. Then there's about 20 pages, which is what used to be, the 3.1 ABCDF form. So, the work package descriptions, the deliverables, milestones, other project costs, that kind of stuff. And then the text part of Part B. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the nice thing there, though, is the page limit no longer applies. Obviously.
What do you mean?
Well, in the Part B of the proposal, you had 45 pages to write the whole FRFU. There's no page limit in.
No, when you have. If you have to do any.
Yeah, when you have to do amendments or you have to make new changes, and then you can write 20 pages. Doesn't make a difference. Yeah.
You don't want to do that.
No, of course not. But it makes it easier because then you can say, okay, let's break this up a little bit, make it a little bit more, because sometimes you jam stuff together because there's so many things you want to do.
How often do you do that in the ones you've been involved in?
What, rewrite everything?
Add text or?
No, you always have, you only add the text that you've been asked to add due to what it says in the gap.
Okay. So if you have had some significant changes where you need to describe it, then okay, of course.
Yeah, I mean, to a certain degree, I mean, you can use that to to add clarifications. So you could, for example, say, based on the gap document, question 5 or whatever. We'd like to elaborate on a process, and then you can elaborate on that process and sneak in a couple details that weren't so clear earlier, or limit something that wasn't so clear. So it's when you're asked to elaborate, you can use that to elaborate in any direction that you seem fit. I mean, again,
Okay, is there any? And then your time, what is the time is the deadline to sign the grant agreement?
Yeah, that's a tricky one because it actually depends on how many review processes you get through. You sort of want to. The most important thing is that you get everything done in time, right? So you usually have, I think, 30 days or something to submit the first review, and that can be tricky if you have non-validated participants. Because you can submit as a declared participant if you've never participated,
Yeah.
and then you have to validate, and only if the partner is validated can you submit the first version of the Annex 1.
Okay, so this you need to explain to me because I haven't been
Okay,
I haven't been through this
so
process. So you have partners who've been doing projects before, been through the process, and then you have new ones.
there's two ways to be a beneficiary or a coordinator in a project, right? One is you've done this before, in which case you've done two things, because you can sign up as an organization, say, I am, the king of Burundi, and my organization is named Burundia, and this is my website, and this is my address. And you don't have to really submit any supporting documents at this point. You have declared your organization, and that declared organization can be a beneficiary in a proposal. When that proposal is then positively evaluated and goes into the grant agreement preparation phase and negotiation phase, then that organization needs to be validated.
Okay, so because you can anyone can go in and make a PIC number.
Right.
Is that the idea, right? Okay, I get it.
Yeah, anybody can get a pick, but then you have to submit your two income statements and the
Balance sheets or
registry
stuff
and
like this.
whatever it is, your VAT declaration and all of that. And that is actually one of the slowest processes, because a lot of times they want sign original, like for the LEAR, you actually need a wet ink signature still. Yeah, the legal entity authorized representative. And I mean, we had a project where, EPIC, it was called EPIC in FP in Horizon 2020, where we had partners in Singapore, Australia, and New Zealand. And of the 5 partners, 4 were new to Horizon 2020. And so we were FedExing documents from Australia to Brussels overnight. And it was literally like I was on the phone with them and saying, scan everything, send me the scan. I checked through every document. They say, okay, these 8 documents, put them in a bag, seal it, write this address on it, and send it, and send me the receipt from DHL that you sent it. And then, it's like, and then you call the commission, it's like, 2 days ago, you got a package from DHL from Australia, and it's all the declaration information. And then they say, yeah, document whatever, the registry is missing. It's like, no, it's not missing. And then I'll email them the PDF. It's like, these are the 5 documents that got scanned before they were put in the envelope. I know that document is in that envelope. Yeah, I know you have it. Yeah. No, we didn't receive it. And I was like, yeah, you did. You must have it. It's like, oh yeah, we found it. And I was like, Jesus, And at the same time, you're getting letters from the commission saying, if you don't get the grant agreement, this grant preparation process done by the deadline, we will terminate contract negotiations. And you're like, it's not me, it's you. Yeah.
Stop hitting yourself. Stop hitting yourself.
It's really, really, fun, I guess, if you're slightly masochistic.
Is it Kafkaesque?
Yeah, but again, it's just the way the process is. Yeah, the post office is overrun with stuff. They have a million things coming in. The package gets lost. I don't know what. Yeah.
Probably in time, the commission will make this a digital process.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that you can now submit digitally. That's actually changed. But the LEAR letter, for example, still needs to be wet ink, as far as I know. It's the last document. Yeah. So because you have to send in,
It will
I am the
change.
leader, then you have to send in a copy of an ID that has a signature on it, so like usually your passport has a signature sample. So you do a scan of the passport and then the physical signature on the leader appointment document.
Mhm.
And that can obviously mess up your timeline when these
Of
things
course.
don't, especially if it's over Christmas and you need a registry printout. I mean, all of these things, it's getting a lot easier because you can do a lot of the registry stuff. Company registration you can get online, but it's fun. It's fun.
Now, it's not supposed to get anecdotal, but do you remember the times when it was not?
Yes,
When you have to send in proposals
by
by
mail, and you had to get a stamp from the post office that was sent before midnight.
that's before my time.
I no, I remember, working for an organization, and we had everything. You needed to print out, I think, 3 or 4 copies or something, and they weren't allowed to be stapled, but they had to be sort of in binder somehow. It was all really weird. And he got to the post office at 001, 1 minute past midnight.
Yeah.
And
Uh-huh.
I was like, yeah, no, I need this with yesterday's stamp. And the post office guy was like, it's 1 past midnight. And when he would do a registered mail, then there's a list of his registered mail things, and he had already his red line for the new date, and that
Mhm.
was that. So that proposal wasn't handed in. And the other thing was, and I actually thought about making a service back then. Basically, whenever there's a deadline, you rent an office in Brussels and say, email it to me. I'll print it and I'll run over to the commission and hand it, because you could hand it in personally.
That would have been a business back
That would have
then,
been a
yeah.
business,
Good
yeah.
business
All you
model.
need is, like a
Yeah,
good
yeah.
internet connection and 3 printers.
A hell of a printer,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
And then,
Fast, big
yeah,
printers.
and a couple, sporty students who can run back and forth.
Lots of students.
Yeah.
Lots of
But the
stagiaires.
thing was, on deadline days, the morning-ish flights to Brussels, there's always 10 people sitting in there with with an envelope in their hand.
Yeah. Of course, because that,
So you had to deliver it to whatever office it was by 5 p.m. and then you get a paper with a stamp on it that it was handed in on time. That was crazy. Yeah.
crazy
That was
days.
FP6. I think FP7 already had electronic submission.
FP7, I've been coordinating FP6 projects, but anything submission related has been from FP7, so that's the only thing I know. It's like people who didn't see the Berlin Wall fall.
Yeah. What do you mean there was a wall? And I was like, yeah, there was a wall.
Yeah.
It was not nice traveling over that
There was
border.
something called Eastern Germany.
Yeah.
German Democratic Republic. No. Let's move on to the. Actually, I thought this would have been much longer, but actually we covered it quite well. The core element here. Now we still need to run through communication with the Commission, coordinating consortiums, learnings, and toughest challenges. So, but actually we've been discussing these things all along. As a communication with the Commission.
Be honest, be fair, offer alternatives, come prepared. Nothing worse than going in there saying, so what do we do now? Yeah. Oh, that's right. That's a pretty bad situation. Gee, what are we gonna do? Yeah. I mean, you're dead in the water. Yeah. That's when, and I mean, it runs. I mean, it carries on when you're doing projects as well, but also in the gap. I mean, just because the questions that the Commission has in the gap are all easy to answer doesn't mean that everything's easy to answer, because whatever, one of your partners went bankrupt in the meantime or is no longer interested in the proposal, then you have to come in and say, look, whatever, ABC Limited doesn't want to be in the project anymore, and so we don't have their atomic reactor anymore, but we got, what is it, 7 Mile Island in there, and they've got their atomic reactor, and we'll be doing it there. And they agreed on
For
the same things.
solutions in
And
terms.
the other alternative is that we take some of that money and we subcontract and we do it there. Those are our options. We have a strong opinion to exchanging the partner. We already have everybody, every beneficiary's written agreement that they agree with this change. Really, then the PO is like, okay, great. There's an issue. They thought about it. They came up with 2 solutions. They prepared everything that all I have to say is yes, great, and it's done.
And check formalities.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, but yeah, we've been actually covering a couple of times during this episode. So yes, just like don't let yourself be bossed around, but at the same time be flexible and know your worth and know it's a negotiation phase and so on. But they actually want you to succeed. So
and don't think you're the smartest person in the room and you can fool everybody, because you're not gonna do that for a long time. Yeah, I mean, this is it doesn't pay off. And the thing is, I mean, like you said, the situation that you want to get to is that the PO thinks you're the best project he's ever had, or she.
Because the more they, exactly like you said earlier, they have a lot of projects under their belt. And if you're the project that makes troubles, it's not going to help you. It's going to help you if you're the project that is smooth running, even through contingency periods, plan B, C, D. Any kind of that you manage, you are flexible, you work together with them and not against the commission. Everything's going to be much easier for you.
Yep.
For the whole consortium, for everything that you do. Yeah.
And one thing that's, again, I mean, you're starting to build your rapport with the PO. And I mean, we try to stay very close to our POs, and we're very open and transparent about everything. And then, every once in a while, the commission has an event, and then they have 10 speaking slots, and they have 100 projects or 150 projects on that call, and they have 10 speaking slots. Who are you going to call? Yeah.
Who are you going to call? Ghostbusters.
Yeah. Guy who's always delivered, the guy who's always on top, the guy who's always ahead of his game, or problem child who, has a great idea, but, is like all over the place.
Actually, I've been in that spot, but that was not because of me. I can't claim that, because I took over coordination the last 6 or 7 months from another guy. So it's other people, good relationship with the PO, right? But the fact was that project, we kept being invited after project ended to present it, because the commission loved the project.
Yeah.
It's a very nice place to be.
Yeah.
That's how I met my wife. Was that such an event where we were invited to present the project?
See? EU projects can get you married. I mean, indeed. How's that for a deliverable?
You heard it first on the Grand.
How's that for a milestone?
You heard it first in the Grand. Get into a project and get married.
No, but that's the best thing that can happen to you, because then, it's the best kind of PR that you can get as an organization to follow on projects.
Yeah.
Because then, you coordinate one. The ideal thing is you coordinate one and you get invited to 5. Yeah, because the coordination is a lot of work, and then you have 5 where you do a work package lead or something.
And the thing is, POs also talk to each other.
Yeah, don't think you can get away with.
They probably also have a CIM database system, pretty sure, where they can write comments about how.
I'm sure there's both official and unofficial versions of that. Yeah.
If you're a little troublemaker.
Yeah, I mean, and it's just not worth it. I mean, come on, this is a long game that we're playing here, right? And you want to be known as an honorable and trustworthy partner.
Coordinating the consortium. That's the octopus, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, there's an element of octopus
that's
in this phase.
well, in this phase, I mean, the lucky thing that you have there is that nobody has any financing yet. So they're still at your mercy to a certain degree,
Mm-hmm.
because the only communication is between the coordinator and the commission.
Yeah.
So if somebody acts up and all of a sudden, starts being very, very counterproductive, it's still pre-signature.
Yeah.
And then if everybody else in the consortium agrees that Jack's just not going to cut it, then Jack can be cut
Uh,
without a lot of noise.
you don't. I actually have experience. I have tried, but that's so weird. In this phase, where the coordinator is just trying to make ends meet, they have the contract part with the commission, and then they have to coordinate the kickoff. I've seen partners being already obnoxious, deciding for a date for the kickoff, and then would come replies like, "That is absolutely unacceptable." This kind of,
Yeah.
and you haven't even get the kickoff. You know what? The coordinator is sitting. How long was that?
Mm,
36 months with that partner.
yeah, I mean,
Oh,
usually you do notice these things already in the writing part of the
in the
in the
proposal. Oh,
proposal,
yeah,
where
yeah,
it's
yeah.
and my advice on that is really, really clear. A decent partner with a decent track record is better than the best nature publisher who's just asshole.
Being a
Yeah,
jerk.
who's just an
Yeah.
jerk. That's the word I'm looking for. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think this phase we already
Yeah.
talked about it, but it's simply including them being, like I said, this is what's informing them clearly on the process, what's going on, both in terms of the contract and what's going on with the consortium timeline, so to say, with the kickoff meeting and so on, and then everybody's happy.
Yeah.
Normally.
And it's
Um,
it's the kickoff is really probably one of the most important and probably often underestimated, because the kickoff sets so many precedents. How do we meet? How do we manage our meetings? How do we act at the meeting? What's, is this how punctual are we? How good is our slides? Do we have our corporate identity? Do people do as they've been informed to? Yeah, the kickoff is, very decisive for the culture of the project, I guess you could say.
Actually, I just think you signed up for another episode, Georg, because I actually put the kickoff on my episode list,
Mm.
and and I've been looking at it and saying, oh, do I have it? Does it take a full episode? But yes, you just convinced me. Yes, and since you put emphasis on the importance of.
If you do it right, it's a shitload of work, and me and my team do put a lot of effort into the kickoff, and really making sure, starting with, making sure that, and this is, 3 weeks into the project. Yeah, we have a corporate identity. We have a first version
Mhm.
of the website. Everybody has slide decks. We tell them exactly what it's going to be. We tell them the
Yeah.
exact rundown of what it's going to be. What is it going to? What are we going to do? What's the plan? What are we doing? Why are we doing it? What's going to be done at the end? And
Mhm.
really, punching a lot of stuff out there. We usually have a public session to make sure that, you engage everybody else, because usually, a lot of times it's, like academic universities that are coordinating, and then you can draw into, a lot of new blood onto that topic. So there's a
Mhm.
lot of things there, and, making sure that, I mean, friends is a big word, but at least, becoming at least colleagues. Yeah. So it's this, and it's the same thing, and it's the same thing.
The
Yeah,
good energy, positive energy. Yeah, I understand very very well what you're talking about here. So one thing, you want to come off as a professional coordinator that is already on top of things, that makes people happy when they come, say, oh, this is nice, we are already moving out,
yeah,
how good, that alone creates a good energy. And then creating some sort of social activities, and not just a dinner, maybe also something else, something external, the mayor or
yeah.
whatever, coming by and delivering a speech, something like this. Yeah. No, that's for later. We will dig into that. That's nice. Thanks for that.
It actually goes along nicely, because it's what you're doing with the PO. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
creating uh, a culture with the PO, saying we're open, we're proactive, we know what's going on, we're in this together,
Mhm.
right? And you can take that into the review process. I mean, every time, people hate reviews, but I mean, the review is just a midterm evaluation, or whenever it
Yeah.
is. And I mean, that again, if you have a good relationship with your PO, then you can call them up and say, look, I mean, we've got in 6 months we're going to have a review. I'm looking forward to it, because I think it's a great way for us, for an outside expert, to assess what we're doing. Because a lot of what's going on in the project is confidential, so we can finally share it with expert outside. I'm really looking forward
Mm.
to engaging with these people and getting feedback from them on an external opinion of our internal views. Um, but what I really don't want is project bashing. Yeah, I don't want, I've seen it, where the evaluators just have the feeling that they have to criticize everything they see. Yeah, that's not what I want, and I think it's not constructive.
Yeah.
And if you have built this trust and confidence with the PO, then you can talk open like that, and then they'll say, yeah, I mean, you're totally right. I mean, this is not project bashing that we need to be doing here. This is a constructive process. And again, that carries on.
Yeah. And so again, it's the same with the consortium, right?
Yeah, and if you screw that up during the contract negotiations, you're never getting it back.
We're almost done. Now I have learnings and do's and don'ts in one batch. And then I always have my segment, the toughest challenge. So let's start with don'ts or learnings. If there's anything you want, so if how would you attack this one?
Do be open about problems and risks. Don't come without at least a couple ideas for solutions. Yeah.
Mhm.
Do try to engage proactively. Don't contact all the time when you've got nothing to say. Yeah. I
Mhm.
mean, sometimes I just write emails to the PO. Everything is going great. By the way, we just passed this milestone. I clicked it in the thing. They probably got a message somewhere. Yeah, project's going great. We're really looking forward to this next step in the project. Hope you're doing great. Yeah, stuff like that. Yeah, and you should be
Yeah.
doing that every 3-4 months. Yeah, unprompted. Yeah, but it shouldn't be like a 10-page email with lots of stuff in the middle. Yeah, just everything's going great. Looking for, if you want to call, we're available. We have this and this things, and and again, that's something that already starts in the contract negotiation, where you can already start, proactively contact the PO as soon as you know the name. Send them an email. Hi, great, looking forward to meeting you. Blah blah blah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Can we have a short call? Yeah. And don't bring things into a discussion that you haven't warned the PO about, to a certain degree. Don't say, yeah, I'm calling about the weather, and then all of a sudden, yeah, by the way, the basement's flooded, what should we do? Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
When you set up a meeting, say, these are the 5 things I want to talk about. These are my suggestions.
No
Yeah.
surprises. The same, when you know, if I've tried to be laid off a couple of times, when you get that email, we need to have a meeting about
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
Don't be that person.
No, because it's panic mode,
you...
yeah? Because you're writing to say, yeah, everything's going great, and the other is like, oh my God, what's going on, yeah?
Exactly.
Yeah.
The grand toughest challenge?
Accept the timelines for what they are. They're beyond both your and the PO's control. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Suck it up, get the job done. Everybody will love you. I mean, my lines are sometimes you just have to eat shit. Yeah.
Do you have a practical example?
Well, yeah. You for example, you get the stupid email from the commission saying that the deadline so and so, the gap comes late. Then all of a sudden they make some weird new demand, or the ethics comes in, and whatever they throw at you, you have to do it. Get it done. Don't complain. Yeah. You can say afterwards, look, I know how the system works. I know that you don't have control over this. Yeah. And it's a bonding with the PO where you say, look, I don't, but when you sent that email Friday night, I spent my weekend fixing this so that I could have it done Monday afternoon. Yeah. I bled for you. Let's try to avoid these situations in the future.
Insinuating that it...
Yeah. I know it's not your fault.
Might be more flexibility. Might be some flexibility coming in later from the other end.
Yeah, I know it's not your fault, but I just went through a really shitty thing. That's nobody's fault, but I did it. Yeah, and I'm not complaining. Yeah, but let's try to... What can we do so this doesn't happen again?
Yeah. And they also know.
Of course they know.
It's not that like they don't know. Of course they know.
No, but sometimes they don't have control either.
Yeah. Because they have someone knocking them.
I have a situation that's running right now with a contract amendment, and yes, it's fine like this. Goes up one step. Okay. +1 wants this. It comes back down. It gets sent to me. I fix that minor thing. Yeah. Goes back. +1 says great. +2 says fix this. And it's like minor stuff. No. Make this line font Arial. Make this. I mean, it's not that trivial. Yeah, but useless stuff. You kind of thing, and just it's ping ponging around forever, right? And yeah, it is what it is. You just have to get it done.
Yeah. All right. No, Georg, you need to get into your family.
Yeah. No, it's been a lot of fun, and I really enjoy this here because it lets me think about what is my routine and reflect on my routine and what is it, and at the end of the day, I mean, a lot of the stuff I say might sound a little bit negative, but at the end of the day, I really think that I got one of the coolest jobs in the world, right? I'm at the interface of a lot of high quality science. What I do makes a difference on the scientific ground. The projects that I'm working on have publications in Nature, Cell, other top publications. If you're looking at the medical sector, it trickles down into changes of therapy. At the same time, I can, I've the top experts in Europe explaining complicated stuff to me in a way that I understand. I mean, I have a biotech degree, so that helps. Yeah, but at the end of the day, you're there, and you're doing them a huge favor by taking something off their plate that they shouldn't need to worry about, right? If someone's an expert in rheumatoid arthritis, they should not become an expert on the participant portal. It's a waste of their talent. Yeah, every minute they spend on the portal and not with the patient is a minute that the patients will never get back.
Indeed. That's why you have guys like you and me.
Yeah.
Most you, because I'm not doing it.
You'll get back in the game.
Eventually. Georg, I'm just going to shut it down. You know the drill. So, dear listeners, thank you so much for listening to the end. It's been wonderful to open up this new series with this good old contact of mine. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. And hopefully lots of nice, good information that will help you when you eventually will win, because you will win a project. You will get funding through. Everybody does eventually, no matter how horrible it might seem that you keep getting rejections. Now, go to my website, thegrant.eu. There you have a huge pile of podcast episodes, and I have categorized them in there. So obviously people who have been listening to this, they have an interest in Horizon Europe, and I do have a specific place, Horizon Europe corner there on my website. Other kinds of corners, the proposal preparation, of course, the timelines used, you'll find that immediately, very intuitively when you go to the site. And while you're there, please subscribe to my email list. That spells currency in the podcast world. This is helping me in my endeavors here with this initiative. So if you have any sympathy at all with that, please, I would be very happy. I'm very happy for each subscription. Last thing, connect with me on LinkedIn. That's where the fun happens. That's where the flow is. That's where I share things, where I share Georg's wonderful comments and posts. This is where I share whatever comes out from the commission. I have quite a flow now, because the more I do this, the more people connect with me. So I get a huge flow of information that is relevant for all of you. So that's that. Now, that was that. So let's just say goodbye to the dear listeners. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Grant. All the Grant episodes have their own site on the Grant website. You will find the link in the episode notes where you listen to your podcast. On the side of this episode, you will find a link to Georg's LinkedIn site so you can connect with him. Further, you will find a link to the timeline series, which guides you through the proposal process, and you will find a link to the Grant Hub, where you will find different kind of resources that I have gathered that can help you in your proposal writing or project management. Finally, I have added a direct link to the recently refurbished funding and tenders portal by the European Commission. Here you will have access to all the information you need from the Commission side within this field. In next week's episode, I will be digging into how municipalities and local public authorities can work with EU funding. I have the wonderful Maj-Britt Leigård Petersen, project manager and Vejle business support in the South Danish municipality Vejle, in as a guest. You can look forward to that. See you next week.